Hello, everyone out there. How are you? Am I unmuted? Yeah, I think I am. Hey, good to see you. It's been a while. It's been at least a couple of days. Hope everyone's doing well out there. Hope your air quality index is up to a serviceable level. So so that the outside air only tastes like one pack of menthols today instead of the two. I really hope that for you. I hope that for you. I hope you've successfully outsmarted your AI this morning so that Alexa didn't fuck up your life too much. That's the future. Honestly, a couple of weeks from now, we're gonna wake up each morning and be like, "How do I trick the AI in my walls into thinking that I'm not leaving the house?" That's you gotta do the mannequin under the blankets so that the AI thinks you're still there. That's our future. Any day now. It's gonna be like we're trying to trick our parents back when we were 14 years old, just to get a couple of hours outside the house where you could breathe that menthol air and actually enjoy yourself. Fresh air, fresh air. Finally got out of my house monitoring. Anyway, hope you're doing well out there. Sorry to start with the dystopia. Hope everyone's doing all right. I got stories. Hollywood is shut down. We're gonna get into that in a massive show of worker power and worker solidarity. Of course, the Hollywood moguls are not any less jackasses than you would expect. We got more interrupting of politicians demanding that they end fossil fuel use so we can survive on this planet for a couple of more weeks. I got some stories for you on how exactly planned obsolescence works. I haven't talked about that in a little while, and this this system works and how it makes it impossible for actually good products and good ways of life to sustain. I'm going to get into that. I got a lot of stories for you. I'm going to get into one of Joe Biden's latest moves, and I'm sure you can predict it. It's glorious. It's just, has that guy ever done anything wrong in his life? He's just hitting him out of the park every week. Every week. Anyway, thank you for being here. Please take a second to hit thumbs up, like, share, all those good things. If you're watching on Rumble, hope you hit subscribe or follow. And a special hello to everybody watching on my locals page, leecamp.net. You guys keep this show going. So thank you for doing that. All right. Let's start off with the fact that Hollywood is shut the fuck down. Workers have shut down Hollywood in a historic 2-union strike. Now, you might already heard that the writers have been on strike for a while now, but that does not have nearly the impact of what has now transpired. The Screen Actors Guild is going on strike, which I was a member of when I was actually on screens. When I was back when I actually auditioned and went out for things like that in my early 20s. And I still get a check from Screen Actor Guilds. I get about I'd say $30 a month for my one appearance on Law and Order SVU when I was 25 years old or something. I get those $40 from SAG every month, or roughly every month, and most all of that money comes because that episode of Law and Order SVU from 15 years ago or 20 years ago, whatever it is, still airs, I think, in Saudi Arabia. I think that's where the money comes from. Anyway, Screen Actors Guild has gone on strike. Today, the union's national board of directors voted unanimously to launch a nationwide strike against the studios after contract negotiations have collapsed. In an emotional press conference, union leaders revealed shocking details about the studio's counter proposals, in the words of SAG-AFTRA president Fran Drescher. Okay, but can anyone imagine Fran Drescher giving a speech and it not seeming kind of funny? Like, they talk about how it was very gripping and anguished, this speech, but I feel like it had to sound it's probably sounded a little funny. It's Fran Drescher. President Fran Drescher said it was insulting their counter proposals were insulting to their members. This strike announcement comes only a day after the AMPTP, which is all the initials they could afford at the time, strategy to allow things to drag on until union members start losing their apartments and losing their houses as a cruel but necessary evil. That is what the actual entities that oversee this, that run the studios, that is what they believe. That's what they want to see happen, is that they are going to drag this out until people start losing their apartments and start running out of money, and they're fine with that. That is their goal, to make the life of, now initially it was just writers, so it was going to be the life of the writers miserable to the point that they'll take any deal they can get. However, now it's far larger than just the writers. In a fiery speech, Drescher, and a little bit funny, Drescher responded, "You know what? Eventually the people break down the gates of Versailles and it's over. And we're at that moment right now. Go, Fran! You tell him, Fran!" I didn't ever think I'd get to the point where I was like, fucking Fran is telling it like it is. For the first time in 63 years, both the Screen Actors Guild and the Writers Guild of America are out on the picket lines. So the Writers Guild is only 11,000 members. So a lot of things were able to continue on. My brother works in Hollywood. The movie he was working on continued to work, because anything that already had a script done, the movies basically said, the studios basically said, well, we'll just keep going because we already have the script, we'll just keep going. However, this now shuts down pretty much everything, because you can't do much of anything without actors. Only the things, I suppose, that are in the editing bay, meaning they've already been filmed, only things that are already in the can could continue to be in production, I think. But so Writers Guild is only 11,000. However, SAG-AFTRA is 160,000 members. Actors, writers, and directors are all in different guilds. Camera operators and sound mixers are in their own guilds too. Makeup artists and script supervisor in different guilds also. Then you got the guilds for the fluffers and the reach arounds. You got those completely separate guild. You got the taint scrubbers. It's all different guilds. Okay, it's different guilds entirely. And trying to get the fluffers to align with the taint scrubbers, it's very difficult. It's very difficult to get all of them working together. But we're at that point where they are. Many of them are working together. And each of these unions negotiates with the same overarching producer entity, the AMPTP. Both SAG and WGA have been fighting for similar proposals over the last 3 months. These proposals include wage increases to keep up with the historic inflation rates seen since 2021, establish reasonable and qualitative residuals from online streaming projects where their work will never hit the movie theater, and existential protections against automation from groundbreaking artificial intelligence technology. So the AI disruption to Hollywood, or involvement in Hollywood, is going to get very big very quick, because not only is it getting close enough that you could ask it to write a movie script and it would probably give you something serviceable, but it's getting closer to that. I don't know if it's there yet, but taking a script that is done, and these scripts always go through an endless number of rewrites. Well, we're already to the point, for the most part, where you could take a script written by a human and then throw it into your AI machine, throw it into ChatGPT and say, rewrite this to sound a little scarier, or rewrite this to sound a little funnier, or those type of things. And you would, the studios would in many ways get a lot of probably usable recommendations for how to make things sound scarier or funnier or whatever. And that job should be, and used to be, done by a human. So they're losing a lot of the work, even if we're not yet at the point that you're going to see a lot of fully AI written scripts. And then there's also the argument of, well, those AI scripts, how is AI writing those scripts? Well, it's taking all of the scripts it read by, the Spielberg scripts and the David Lynch scripts and the Russo brothers and all of them. It's taking all of them and it's slamming them in there, and it's writing something that's original, but it's kind of plagiarized the thought of all of those other writers. So there's going to be court cases on that, as well as to whether, especially perhaps the first court cases will be based on works of art. If you say, show me a painting that looks like M.C. Escher of this landscape, and then it's done really well, does the artist or the estate of the artist, should they get money from that? And is that legal? And so we're going to be seeing all kinds of lawsuits over that in the coming days. But so while some of this has to do with AI protections, I think that's a much smaller factor in why these workers are deciding to strike and fighting back. And like I said, this has now shut down Hollywood for all intents and purposes, except for things that have already been filmed. My brother's movie, which did not, the one he was working on, which did not shut down because of the writer's strike, because it was already written, has shut down now. So this shows the power of workers when we work together, when we don't just make it one group. I went down to both support, but also to do some interviews. I haven't gotten around to editing those yet, but of writers that were picketing outside. I think Captain America 4 was taping in Washington, D.C. And I spoke to some people on the picket line, and one of them, he was the most vocal of the whole group with the chanting and the such, was not in the Writers Guild. He was in another guild, I think, AFSCME or one of those, like a blue-collar worker type guy. And he said, well, it doesn't matter that it's not my union. It's union workers striking, protesting. So I'm here to support them. And when that kind of solidarity starts happening, that's when the ruling elite get fucked. That's when they get scared. Is unity, is solidarity, is working together. And the people who preach those kind of things, they often end up with a bullet in their head. Yeah. Luckily, you have to have a far larger following than I do. But, you've got to have 10,000 people listening to you. And if you're preaching solidarity and unity against the ruling class, then I'd say, Doc! That'd be my advice. But the Hollywood moguls, however, in the midst of this, as Hollywood is shut down due to their greed, due to their treatment of these workers, due to the fact that now a lot of movies go directly or almost directly to streaming, and the writers and others don't get nearly the residuals that they would if it went into theaters, which is really just a way for these incredibly rich motherfuckers to enrich themselves more and not give to the workers that produce the stuff, produce the work. Anyway, in the midst of all this, Hollywood moguls are basking in Sun Valley luxury while the industry shuts down. Here's images of the Warner Brothers and Discovery CEO David Zaslav, producers Brian Glazer, Jason Glum, Double E Pictures founder and CEO Eric Eisner. And they're all at this resort, which has been called Billionaires Summer Camp. And they're just having a ball. Just having a great time. Just look at them. They got bicycles and guns. There's anything more fun than bicycles and guns? What a good time they're having. Studio executives are having a grand old time surrounded by other moguls in Sun Valley, Idaho, as SAG-AFTRA's National Board unanimously agreed to go on strike from all Hollywood productions on Thursday. But to see how the execs carried on, it would seem the news hadn't arrived to the resort. They seem to be having a lot of fun out there. And by the way, this photo of Jason Blum and others, I think Zaslav with guns, he posted to his Twitter and then he deleted. Apparently it was not a good look. Hey, the workers are on strike. Look at our guns. Apparently it didn't go over well, so he deleted that. But I wanted to show you, here's a quick interview of Bob Iger, the Disney CEO, speaking about this mass strike, about what's going on with the breads and the circuses. And here he is, and it's a real good look. That where is he giving this interview? Let's see. Oh, just inside his mother's basement, right down. Just he's a man of the people, really. Is why he's doing this interview, to talk about how workers need to, they just need to work a little harder and tighten those purse strings. But they do, and that's why he clearly is also, he's going through some tough times. And it's, look, that used to be Everest behind him, and now he's had to downsize the mountains in the background as he speaks to CNBC. He's had to downsize severely to much smaller mountains. These are nowhere near Everest level, and it hurts, to lose that much and to have to go down to a level that you never thought you'd be at again. And so I feel for Mr. Bob Iger. I feel that poor guy suffering, had to downsize his mountains in the background. Anyway, here's part of an interview with him on the strike.
Speaking of content, we're in the midst of a writer's strike, and very likely it would seem to have a actor's strike. How is that going to impact things, and what are your expectations there?
Well, I think it's very disturbing to me. We've talked.
It's very disturbing when I lose money. When I only make what was it, 33 or 37 million a year, and it's just very disturbing to me when I hear people want money and they don't give it all to me. It's just disturbing.
About disruptive forces on this business and all the challenges that we're facing.
Disruptive on my wallet is what he means.
In the recovery from COVID, which is ongoing. It's not completely back.
And that's why I have agreed to give up all of my, because these post-COVID times are so tough, I've agreed to give up all of my income, says Mr. Iger, except for the 37 million. But other than that, I have gone without the little mints that they leave in the bathroom for you in the executive bathroom. Yeah, no mints. I mean, used to be Werther's Original. Then we went down to Mentos, which, what am I, a fucking street urchin? Down to Mentos, and now no mints whatsoever in the executive bathroom. I am tightening things up to try and get through this. Okay, that's what we're doing. You don't see me complaining.
This is the worst time in the world to add to that disruption.
You notice that whenever the workers fight back, whenever they stand up, whenever they say, "Hey, what if we were paid something fair?" It's just not the time. Now is not the time. Okay. Now, if you wanted to have a strike and shut down Hollywood 3-4 years ago, that's fine. We would have loved it. We would have celebrated it. We would have said, yes, shut it down. But now it's no good. It's no good. I got a dental appointment on Thursday. I got to get my $1,000 pants pressed. That's not a good time. Just some of the time.
I understand any labor organization's desire to.
He understands, folks. He sounds like one of those call center people where you're like, I was sent a product that doesn't work at all, and they're like, look, I understand your frustration. We get it. We can't do anything, but we get it. We understand. We feel for you. We're there with you. We're there for you. We just can't help you. That's what he sounds like. He's like, I understand they want more money. I want more money too, but it's just not happening. They have capped me at 37 million a year.
Work on the behalf of its members to get the most compensation, to be compensated fairly based on the value that they deliver. We managed as an industry.
He says, I understand their desire to be compensated fairly, but now's not the time. No, I don't think he meant to phrase it that way. Now's not the time to be compensated fairly. There's a time to be compensated fairly, but now is not it.
To negotiate a very good deal with the Directors Guild that reflects.
By the way, I heard from some people about the deal with the Directors Guild, and apparently it was a pretty garbage deal. It's just that they took it. So the Directors Guild took a shitty deal rather than strike, while the writers and the actors now are striking.
It's the value that the directors contribute to this great business. We wanted to do the same thing with the writers, and we'd like to do the same thing with the actors. There's a level of expectation that they have that is just not realistic.
That's another one they love. That's another word they love. It's not realistic for you to get paid fairly. I understand the desire to be paid fairly, but it's just not realistic. Okay. And here's the thing is he gets paid $37 million. Let's say some of these actors, I'm gonna get $37,000 a year. That's doing pretty well in acting, honestly. Compared to what most actors, they have to have two other jobs just to support themselves. But let's say they get $37,000. Yeah, I think it's quite obvious that this guy works 100 times harder than anybody on the lower level getting paid $37,000. He just can't you tell by the way he's sitting and the mountains in the background? He works 100 times harder. He works 100% more hours in the day. Right.
And they are adding to a set of challenges that this business is already facing that is, quite frankly, very disruptive.
So they're not being.
Why are they being so disruptive? Oh, here comes the best part. Tell me how they're being unreasonable. I can't tell you that.
Quite frankly, very disruptive.
So they're not being realistic.
No, they're not.
Why not?
I can't answer that question.
They're not being realistic. Oh, realistic. Well, what is realistic? Realistic is we get paid millions upon millions of dollars to sit up here in our high chairs in the mountains, and you get paid not enough to pay your rent, and that's realistic. That's what realism is. That's what it is. Here's the thing. If that's realistic, if that's what realism is in this system, then it's a fucked up system. If you call that realistic and that is how the system works, then that's just a shit system. So you get your choice. Either you can say this is absolutely realistic to desire to be paid fairly for their work, or you can say it's unrealistic and we have a shit system. But of course they wouldn't say that. But that's the truth.
I respect their right and their desire to get as much as they possibly can in compensation for their people.
I respect and and living on the streets before we ever sit down at a table with them again. So I'm hoping that ultimately a lot of their kids get cancer and then they won't have the money to pay for treatment, and then they'll just accept whatever we offer them as a deal. So that is my hope, that that a lot of their kids get very, very sick. But I certainly understand. I understand and respect their desire to pay for their kids' health care. But we're not going to do that. We're not going to have them be able to afford healthcare. That's no.
Completely respect that. I've been around long enough to understand that dynamic and to appreciate it. But you also have to be realistic about it with the business environment.
Realistic means nothing. It's one of these words you throw around. Just be realistic. I'll just be realistic. Oh, okay.
What this business can deliver. It is and has been a great business.
Apparently can deliver him $37 million a year.
For all of these people, and it will continue to be, even through disruptive times. But, being realistic is imperative.
What do you do in the interim, then?
Is it realistic for you to fly in a private jet while, the outside is toxic? I live in Baltimore. The air quality today is so bad that you're not supposed to go outside. And you're flying in private jets to your fucking mountain retreats where you discuss and laugh with your fellow moguls about making tens of millions of dollars a year. Is that realistic? Is that the realistic we're talking about? Okay, just got it.
AI start to write a lot of scripts?
It will have a very, very damaging effect on the whole business, and
The
unfortunately,
strike will.
there's huge collateral damage in the industry
Oh,
to
yeah,
people
well,
who are, who are support services. I could go on and on.
could you please go on and on with your bullshit? But he talks about the collateral damage, the support services, the makeup artists and everything that'll be suffering. Well, you know why else another way to stop their suffering would be for you to do a fair fucking deal, and then the strike would end. So they put it all on the workers, right? Oh, it's the workers' fault. They're the ones that have caused this havoc on the industry. But in fact, you could give them a fair deal, and then it would be over. And then, so really, it's on you. It's on you for walking away and not giving them a fair deal. So it's all this bullshit. It's bullshit propaganda. It's said by the richest of the rich, and it's disgusting. And it's how our system works. But all right, let's move on. Anyway, I'll wrap up by just saying more power to them. I hope they win the deal they want, and obviously support them however you can. Maybe best for everybody to tweet about how they don't even like movies much and they don't want to go, or TV. And so we're not missing the movies at all. Maybe that's what you should tweet. No, I don't. That's probably not going to help it. That's not going to do it. Yeah, but hope they're able to win. All right, let's see. I want to get into let's get into this. So, so much of this, when you just have an hour a day with my show and with a lot of news shows, you get into the things that are quick hits and the day-to-day, and you don't often get into the deeper levels. And I talk a lot about the multiple levels of reality and how deep we could go when we discuss these things, and how most of the time we don't. And so I wanted to take a minute to get to one of those deeper lessons, deeper levels about planned obsolescence. And it's really fascinating. It's an article by Caitlin Johnstone. She does great work always, but it's based on the bankruptcy. Her article is based on the bankruptcy of something called the Instant Pot. Now, for those of you who don't know, the Instant Pot is it's an inflatable chamber pot. So you blow it up, it goes under your bed, and then you can, when you're done, you pack it up, put it in your bag, and then you should probably wash it afterwards. I'd say that'd be a good idea. No, absolutely, that's not what the Instant Pot is. The Instant Pot apparently is a popular pressure cooker that has just gone bankrupt. Now you might be saying, Lee, why the fuck are you talking to me about a pressure cooker? It's a popular electronic pressure cooker whose parent company just filed for Chapter 11 bankruptcy. But the reason is interesting. It's not that it was, the shitty product. Quite the opposite. What doomed the Instapot? How could Instapot, which, by the way, it should have been the Instapot. Let's be honest. That was the inflatable chamber pot. Okay, so they got it. So Instapot. How could something that was so beloved sputter and go out of business? Is the arc of kitchen goods long but bends toward obsolescence? Business schools may someday make a case study. Oh, this, by the way, this is a quote from New Yorker article. A case study of one of the Instant Pot's vulnerabilities, namely that it was simply too well made. Once you slap down your $90 for the Instant Pot Duo 7-in-1, you were set for life. It didn't break, it didn't wear out, it didn't fade, it didn't stop, and the company hasn't introduced major innovations that make you have to constantly level up. You don't even have to pay for a subscription to an app that allows you to use your Instant Pot. As a customer, you were one and done, which might make you think that's a very happy customer. Someone has their Instant Pot, they have it for years and years and years, they fucking love it, they use it all the time, and it's never fading or breaking, and it also means that that company goes out of business. And here's what New Yorker's not saying in their article, but Caitlin is, that's the definition of capitalism. That is how it works. You want your device or your thing or your service to fail people after a short amount of time. You want it to collapse. You want it to break. You want them to have to buy another one. Or you need to keep offering new ones and new add-ons. You have to keep offering new things for people to buy. Otherwise, the idea that you just gave them something that works really well and never fades and never struggles, never has a problem, the company goes out of business because it doesn't have growth, right? Capitalism is cancer. Cancer has to endlessly grow until it kills the host. And the Instant Pot wasn't growing. It sold one to everyone who wanted one across the United States, and they all just had theirs. And then the company is done. They've done their service, and they haven't moved on to other markets. So now they go bankrupt. But like I just said, the New Yorker and most people who speak about these things won't say, oh, this is exactly how capitalism works. It's how it always works. You have to have obsolescence built in. You know, like the iPhone is one of the best kind of examples of this. The fact that they are constantly having you change the type of adapter you need, the type of charger you need, the various outlets, the phone that, you know, they got in trouble a couple of years back where it became clear that the phone, they were slowing down the phones intentionally. Now they argued, oh, well, it was because older phones need to get more out of the battery. It was to help people have a good battery and bullshit. They were slowing down the phones because they want you to buy a new one. They want you to throw out your phone. And iPhone has done this, you know, Apple has done this perhaps better than anyone, the planned obsolescence thing. But let's see, this from Caitlin says, this just says such dismal things about why our planet is facing the existential crises it's now facing. Corporations will die if they don't continually grow, and they can't grow without things like inbuilt planned obsolescence or continued additional purchases, which in a sane society would just be regarded as shoddy craftsmanship. Our entire civilization is driven by the pursuit of profit, and to keep turning large profits, your corporation needs to continually grow. And your corporation can't continually grow unless you are manufacturing a crappy product that needs to be continually replaced or supplemented. And you can't manufacture those replacements and supplementations without harvesting them from the flesh of a dying world. Now, quite poetic. Quite poetic, Caitlin. Exactly. So the resources to do this, the planet doesn't have enough resources to sustain this type of economic model. It doesn't have enough places to throw things away. We now have the oceans filling with plastics. Apparently, microplastics have been found everywhere on the planet. Even the most desolate stretches of Antarctica have microplastics. Every one of us has them in our bodies now. So, I mean, that's exciting. We're partially plastic now, which, you know, who knows what new and exciting skills we'll have or what we'll be capable of now that we're partially plastic. I don't know if it means we keep longer. Maybe. But this is just another example of planned obsolescence and how our system works. And to continue from Caitlin's article, she says, it's really heartbreaking to think about all the ways human potential is being starved and constricted by these ridiculous limitations we've placed on the way we operate as a collective. Resources being resources being allocated based on how well they can turn a profit stymies technological innovation, because the most profitable model will always lose out to less profitable ones that are more beneficial to people and or environment. She's saying if that were the way that our system was set up, to the most beneficial product would actually succeed, then you'd have a completely different system than capitalism, and profit wouldn't be the decider, and you'd end up with the most sustainable thing, or the thing that helps people with their health the most. Instead, you have the reverse. And this goes for health as well. Yes, it goes for technology and products, but I did segments a couple of years ago on how Goldman Sachs had released a memo. Well, I mean, it was supposed to be kept secret, to their top investors, saying not to invest in single treatment cures for all kinds of horrible things that people are suffering from. But the reason not to invest in single treatment cures is because then the customer base ends. You cure all the people. Now you're not getting the money. Money's not coming in anymore. So instead, invest in treatments that people have to have their whole lives. It's not the thing that wins out in capitalism is often the worst, the least sustainable, the one that uses the most resources, the one that is not long-term, the one that enriches the tiniest number of people. That's what wins out under our system. And, part of the reason this article is important is because this is the type of thing that's not talked about, because even most of our independent media folks, even the ones that I respect a lot of what they do, they largely, or a lot of them, refuse to say the word capitalism, or at least refuse to talk about it regularly. So it's like this silent little thing in the corner that's sitting there going, and they never mention it. And they go, big pharma is not really helping people. And it's like, well, why isn't Big Pharma helping people? And they go, well, they're just greedy. Oh, and why are they greedy? And why are the greediest people the ones that get to the top of the Big Pharma system? And they go, well, I don't know. It's just because they're greedy. And meanwhile, behind them, over their shoulder, sitting there, is going, and they're like, do you want to mention capitalism? Do you want to mention that this is the system designed to be this way? It is designed to put the greediest, most sociopathic people at the top. Do you think Bob Iger got to the top of Disney because he was the good guy, helping people merge in front of him on the highway? Yeah, helping old ladies across the street? Do you think that's how he got to the top of Disney? Do you think it was by walking down to the overhang by the bridge and handing out blankets and pillows? Do you think that's how he got to the top of Disney? Fucking no. This is a system that takes the most sociopathic, the most horrible, the most shitheadiest, that's a new word I just made up, the biggest dick helmets, and it puts them at the top specifically. And if you right now are one of the people watching this going, I like helping people, I like, if you give me $10 and I see someone who needs $5, I'm giving them that $5. If that's who you are, then I got bad news for you. You're not going to lead Disney anytime soon. Your chances as CEO of Disney are exceedingly slim right now, or CEO of anything. Very not good. So this is just another example of it. Of course, it's a great article. I'll put the link to Caitlin's article in the comment thread there for you. And I wanted to bring you this next story, which it just felt like there's a segue. It felt like this fits with the story of how quality things collapse, and meaning go bankrupt. I don't mean the product collapses. I mean a company that puts out the best things, the best long-term products collapses in our system, because that's how it works. It feels like this somehow could also go in that same story chunk of just how diluted and confused we are in this goddamn society. Restaurants are adding tiny seats. for people to put their luxury handbags on. This is apparently a thing. Restaurants, I assume the restaurants that are so expensive, I have never been there. Restaurants are putting little chairs next to people so that these fucking idiots can put their $1,000 bags on a chair, because a $1,000 bag or a $10,000 bag, or who knows, maybe I'm not even shooting high enough, a $20,000 bag on the floor is really kind of offensive to the bag. I mean, it's just not, it's not doing the bag justice. And the bag, by the way, will let you know, okay, because they do speak, and they do have feelings and emotions. So the bag will say, I'm worth more than your life. Why am I on the floor? And so now literally top-end restaurants are putting little chairs next to people so they can have their bag on it. There are places in this world where people don't even have chairs. Humans don't have chairs. There are places in this world where people spend a lot of their days squatting because they don't own a chair, or they're out in the fields and they can't have a chair. And here we are in our shitty, super shitty socioeconomic dystopian cluster fudge nutter. Here we are putting bags on chairs. Ugh. So stupid. And this just shows what kind of society we have. I mean, this is like the end times of Rome. This is when you get to the last days, when elite chefs are like celebrities. Apparently also happened in ancient Rome before the collapse, and people have bags on chairs. People have actually, a worker slaved away to build a tiny chair so that a rich asshole can put their bag on it. Oh, God. This feels like a photo of that, it feels like will probably be in some history book one day about why it all came crashing down. It's like, well, they got to a point where they were so confused and so intellectually barren that they were putting bags on chairs. They wanted the bags to be able to take a load off on a chair. All right, I am now going to show a video. Moving on, I'm going to show a video of the congressional softball game getting totally destroyed by activists. I'm going to, by the way, this is going to continue at rumble.com/Lee Camp and my locals page. For those of you at locals, you can remain there. Rumble.com/Lee Camp and locals are the two places free to watch. Here I will, for those of you on the other platforms, I'll give you the link to the Rumble thread so you can join me over there. And yeah, we'll continue, and I'll show that clip in just a second. I also hope, for those of you who aren't members of locals, I hope you become a member at leecamp.net. The screen, as you can see, says leecamp.com. That's my regular website, but leecamp.net will take you to my locals page, which is kind of a combination between Patreon and Facebook, where you can have a little community, and the minimum to join is $6 a month, so 38 cents an episode, and you get my new ebook, Dangerous Ideas. You get all of the live streams whenever you want them. They don't disappear. You get other exclusive content, and you get to ask me questions. I read the comments as often as I can. You get all that good stuff. You get to post your own stuff. So that's all at leecamp.net. Hope you will become a member over there. It is one of the only ways that I support this show. Another that is helping support this show is Yard Rock 2024. This is the rock that I am running for President of the United States. If you want to check it out over there, we have added More merch. 50% of all merch goes to, the proceeds go to eliminate medical debt for struggling Americans. 50%. And we've already eliminated $20,000 of debt because we're able to multiply the donation via RIP medical debt. So $20,000 for struggling Americans has been erased of their debt. That's more than Biden and Trump combined. I in this rock have erased more medical debt than Biden and Donald Trump combined for struggling Americans. So go over there. You can support the show, but we've added a couple of items on there. One is it says a literal rock for president of the United States, better than your candidate. So we added that T-shirt. All this stuff is made in America too. And there's a Boulder Together mug. We also added some Team Orca stuff because the orcas are knocking rich people into the ocean. So we added some Team Orca stuff over there as well. So that's at yardrock2024.com. All right, let's keep it going. Over at Rumble. Sorry, I got to do this real quick. And I have at least one more story after this as well. Sorry, 1 second. Sing something catchy to yourself while I finish doing that. Okay. All right. So here is. Oh my God! I'm gonna bring you even after this. Even though this is awesome, I'm gonna bring you the activist of the week, which is the best. I'll give you a hint. It's not a human, and it's not an orca, although. The orcas are doing great work. They got activist of the week last week, but okay. So this is at I think it was the practice for the congressional softball game. So you've heard of the congressional baseball game. I guess there's also, and I think it's all women in this one, maybe. But this is the congressional softball game, and in Washington D.C. And Climate Defiance decided that perhaps the fact that we're in an existential threat and the world's collapsing around us and the air quality outside is unbreathable and all of Canada's on fire and certain countries and islands going underwater and the ocean is hotter than it's ever been. And we just saw these 7 hottest days in the history of the earth, at least the human history of the earth, the past 100,000 years. We just saw 7 hottest days in a row, all of them setting records. Perhaps that's more important than your fucking softball game. That's what Climate Defiance thought. And so they did this. And for those of you listening on the podcast, I'll try to describe a little bit. So what you're hearing right now is them throwing on Climate Defiance t-shirts and running out on the field.
Looks like we're going to have a little stoppage in play to deal with a protest in the outfield. End fossil fuels are what I'm seeing on the shirts.
Congress, end fossil fuels. End fossil fuels. Congress, end fossil fuels.
And so they've gone out on the field and they're in the middle of the field with locked arms, chanting end fossil fuels. And the game is on hold while they draw everyone's attention to, I don't know, something, I'd say slightly more important.
End fossil fuels, Congress, end fossil fuels.
It's interesting that the women's game for charity is being interrupted in a very prolonged way.
I love these fucking liberals, man. Oh God. The people, did you hear that? That was a commentator that just said that. I guess this is the commentators for I don't know where it was being broadcast, but the commentator goes, it's kind of interesting or upsetting that it's the women's game. Why does that matter? Why does that fucking matter? These are these are Congress members having their lives slightly disrupted while they go ahead and continue to vote to destroy the future of humanity. That is what they're doing on their work days. And now their life is slightly disrupted. And these the clearly liberal announcers say, isn't it interesting? It's the women's game. It doesn't fucking matter which game it is. I'm sure if Climate Defiance is able to, they'll also interrupt the men's game. But gender doesn't fucking matter when you're burning the world alive. Like, it's they interrupted the women's game for charity. None of that matters. None of that matters at all. You idiots.
But the men's was not. Huh. What do you think that means?
Oh yeah, it can. And further, that is a phenomenally dumb comment by these goddamn announcers. What do you think that is? The men's game wasn't interrupted. First of all, if you look at the people who interrupted this game, it's about 70% women. Okay. So do you really think it's because the women who are this is a majority women group that's interrupting this game? Do you think they sat around and they thought, we dislike women, our own gender, and we hate them so much that we only want to interrupt the women's game? Or do you think it probably had something to do with either the time that they couldn't get their own schedules to align, or perhaps maybe the level of security at the men's game? I'm sure there are plenty of reasons for why this was the game that got interrupted. That's the dumbest. Yeah, that's right. This 70 or 80% female group interrupting the game only wanted to interrupt the women's game because they hate women. Yep, that's it.
Eric?
And having covered Congress for some time now, these delays sometimes on.
And I love how, I don't know which congressperson this is, or whether it's possible it's not a congressperson if staff are allowed to also play. I don't actually know how it works, but she's in her uniform yelling at the protesters, "You have to leave! You have to leave now! We have a softball game while we continue to vote for fossil fuels to destroy our future."
Totally unrelated policy issues can often be very frustrating. We do see that from time to time.
It's very frustrating, huh? This was frustrating to you? Well, I think that means it worked. I think that was probably the goal, to make this fucking frustrating in your ivory towers. And there's also the fact, they're like, well, why would this be interrupted? Well, guess what, folks? There's not a lot of things that Congress people do where it's just open to the public and you actually can interrupt them. If you try to get into the Capitol building, which is supposed to be the people's building, if you try to get in there with a group of people and hold up banners and things like that, generally they stop you. Generally they tackle you. Actually, I was with Kevin and Margaret, Kevin Zeese and Margaret Flowers, two amazing activists. They do amazing work. And I mean, Kevin has passed on, which is still sad to me, but they have done amazing work throughout their lives. And but I watched them. I went with them to the FCC. This is when net neutrality still existed. It has now been murdered. And they were pivotal in actually keeping net neutrality for an extra 2 years. I honestly don't think it would have happened without the activism of Kevin and Margaret. But so they stood up at this FCC hearing, and basically empty, the FCC hearing. It's got 15 people in the gallery, in the audience. And they stood up and held up a banner that said "Keep net neutrality" or something like that. And before they could even get the banner unfurled, they had it unfurled for about a second. A giant, overweight security guard who was waiting for them to try anything, full on, like NFL styled, tackled Kevin, just charged straight at him and into him. And that's what happens to you when you try and hold up a sign inside these buildings. So in order to interrupt the proceedings of your Congress people, you often have to be at events like this one. So that, another announcer is like, "Oh, it's very frustrating that people with unrelated policy issues." Well, yeah, what policy issue connected to softball were you expecting? Expected to end the use of aluminum bats in softball now. Is that what you expected? It doesn't. All their complaints are bullshit. It's a women's game. Who cares? It's for charity. Doesn't matter. It's for it's unrelated to softball. Doesn't fucking matter.
Fuels are killing me. Fossil fuels are killing me. No LNG. Fossil fuels are killing me. No LNG. Fossil fuels are killing me.
So there you go. The latest action by Climate Defiance. They're at climatedefiance.org. I interviewed one of the co-founders just last week. I think it was last week. And that can be found at rumble.com/Lee Camp. But yeah, so check out their stuff. You can volunteer with them. You can help out. You can do whatever. But love seeing them interrupt our congresspeople who do not have their lives interrupted enough. All right, moving on. I got at least one more story for you. I wanted to clarify what Joe Biden has done for student debt borrowers. We've talked about this some. So the Supreme Court stopped certain levels of student debt. But I and Eleanor Goldfield have spoken about how it's a lot of too little, too late. Anyway, here's the latest one after the Supreme Court. And of course, the liberal media is jumping up and down for joy. Student loan forgiveness is on the way, for this from NPR, on the way for more than 800,000 borrowers. Woo! Way to go, Joe Biden. You're a hero. More than 804,000 federal student loan borrowers are in for a pleasant surprise. The Department of Education have notified them that their debts will soon be automatically erased. So first of all, they're not saying it here, but I had read elsewhere that it's 800,000 are eligible, meaning they're not just automatically erased, that they probably have to apply or something. Now, I don't know which one is more accurate. Maybe it is automatically erased, but it doesn't really matter. I just wanted to point out that this is, yes, it's better than nothing. I prefer to see any student debt erased in this ridiculous country, ridiculous system where we charge students out the nose to have an education. But it is a relatively tiny amount. How many student loan borrowers are there in the United States of America? I'll tell you what, in other countries, there's zero student loan borrowers because some other countries have free tuition. And there's certain countries where, by the way, where it's free for Americans. So if you go there, you can have free tuition in certain countries. But of course, here, that's not the case. Here, we want to indebt people as much as possible. We want to make sure you live your life under the crushing thumb of debt. And Biden's eliminating the student loan debt for 800,000 people. How many borrowers are there? 43 million. 43 million student loan borrowers in this country. 43 million. So, yes, better than nothing. Good job, Joe Biden, for having something that's better than nothing, which is pretty rare for him. But 43 million. And they're erasing, is it 30 billion? Let's see, $39 billion in federal student loan debt. 39 billion. Now, would anyone like to guess on how much student loan debt there is in the United States? He's erasing $39 billion. How much is there? $1.78 trillion. So 39 billion is like a rounding error on $1.78 trillion of student loan debt. So again, I'm not saying don't do it, but it is a tiny fraction of student loan debt. And then the most important thing that your mainstream media, your liberal media will not tell you, the most important thing is, why do we have such a crushing student loan debt situation in this country? Well, part of it is thanks to Joe Biden. Joe Biden was pivotal in changing our system so that students could not declare bankruptcy. Previous students, people with student loan debt, could not declare bankruptcy because of that debt and could not get out of it. So basically, unlike other debt where it is destroying your life, there are ways to get out of at least a lot or some of it. But with student loan debt, there's not. And Joe Biden was pivotal in that. In his Senate days, he put forward the bill. He may have even written the bill. I don't remember, but he put forward the bill that made it impossible for people to get out of student loan debt. So what little tiny fraction of justice that this is fixing something that Joe Biden did to a tiny degree. It is taking a severed leg that Joe Biden cut off someone and putting a Band-Aid on the stump is what this is. So let's curb our enthusiasm, liberal America, for what a wonderful guy Joe Biden is. And he could erase far more than this tiny amount if he actually gave a shit. All right, let's see if we got a few comments on locals. Actually, I'll continue the rest of this at leecamp.net. It's just going to be Q&A for a few minutes. And thank you all so much for being here. That's locals. That's the locals page. I'll be there for a quick Q&A. And yeah, you guys all rock. Thank you again. I will see you tomorrow because my new schedule is Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday at 3 p.m. Eastern, except Fridays we start a little early, but yeah. All right. And I will see you later, except locals, where I will keep chatting with you. Let's see here. 1 second. All right.